Hi, all leaders in the renewable sector. Today I would like to speak to you about achieving LCOE with safe execution. Today there's a lot of focus on LCOE. It's a KPI that is commonly used within the wind and solar sectors and is used to check the expected financial outcome of a project. I believe from my experience as a global CEO for high-growth wind and solar companies that success in achieving a low LCOE lies primarily with the competence and the skills within the organization. This extends equally to the supply chain involved in construction and operational phases of a renewable project. Let's start with the definition of LCOE. LCOE stands for levelized cost of energy, and it measures lifetime cost divided by the expected energy production. Simple, isn't it? Well, not quite actually, as the formula is quite detailed, but for the purpose of this sprint, we will use the following. So in reality, this means that you need to design a product that maximizes yield using technology that lasts for the expected lifetime by optimizing construction and operation project costs. This sounds like mission impossible, and it could certainly be if the focus is wrong from the beginning of a project. So what do I really mean? In a project, there is always a balance to be struck as investment is not bottomless. This means taking measured risk and compromise within the project from the design phase onwards. I also believe that if the focus is too much on the cost, as you can see here, you will not have control over the performance nor the measured risks you have taken. But if your focus is on the risks from the start, you will have control not just on the performance, but also on the known cost, and more importantly, achieve a safe outcome for people and assets by using the right mitigation. So what are the risk precursors or management decisions that can cause the project to not achieve the expected LCOE? And when do we need to start thinking about these risks? I would say that the majority of risk needs to be identified during the development and design phases of a project in order to ensure that you not experience any unexpected events during construction that could lead to an increase in CapEx. This is unfortunately quite common, and I do think we have all seen it. Incorporating material risks in the investment memorandum will give you a realistic view of the potential returns. So if possible, you should spend a bit more time and resources during the development and design phase to ensure you have fully understood all risk that is associated with the project and the location of the project. This can be achieved by using the right technical competences and relevant experience from all phases of a project. Enable your people who have experience in all life cycle phases to provide input to the design as early as possible. From my experience, performing site visits as early as possible is critical to understand the conditions of the site. For example, a complex terrain may have several implications that significantly affect constructions and operations, ranging from logistics and access to laydown area positions and lifting. Multiple perspectives are important to me. So in addition to considering the terrain amongst other aspects, I also involve operational people to provide input on the preferred technology. This will enable them to understand how to maintain performance during the project's life. Doing so in the design phase is therefore essential. Once the design is sufficiently risk mitigated, allowing enough time for the engineering construction team to plan the execution of the project will ensure that they identify all potential risk for this phase. This should minimize the risk of variations to the project that lead to increased cost due to delays. Ensure that the supply chain is involved and informed throughout so they are able to deliver on time. This is not a surprise to anyone, I hope. And there are companies who are successfully achieving this. In all my experience, I've found that investing in our people is the underlying success factor in achieving your expected LCOE. Procedures alone are grossly insufficient. So what are the key takeaways? It is important to commence the project risk assessment as early on in the project development cycle as possible. Incorporate construction and O&M personnel in your project risk assessment activity as early on in the project as possible, preferably during the development. When you decide to retain a project risk, carefully evaluate project management demand and other long-term impact. If you decide to mitigate by sharing the risk, ensure that you have carefully set out roles and responsibility for each party and the skills they require to fulfill these obligations. I do hope that this helps all of you leaders, and I hope to see you again on the next sprint.